Hi guys, welcome to my channel. So I took your feedback and I decided to do my first book review. Let me know what you think about this. Please don't judge me too harshly because it's my first book review ever and I'm kind of new to this, so I want to hear from you. I want to know how to improve and I want to know what you think I could have done differently, maybe what I left out, what I should have left out, things like that. So bear with me and I hope you enjoy this book review. So, the book I'm going to talk about today is To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. I recently read this book, and after reading it, I could not believe that it took me all these years to actually sit down and read this novel. I'm sure a lot of you already read this book, maybe many times over. I must say, I think this is a life changing book. This book is basically a reflection of people's affairs in the southern US during the 1930s. It's set up around a single father household in rural Alabama in a town called Macomb, and the timeline of the book kind of lines up with the civil rights movement in the U.S. back then. The story is based around two siblings, Jem and Scout Finch, and them learning from their father Atticus Finch just about like the way that life works in this town of Macomb in Alabama. How people treat each other, just learning from things they've noticed in their neighborhood, in school, and things like that, and just trying to understand the way the world works. Now, they're both very young. At the beginning of the book, Scout is just turning 6, and at the end of the book, she's around 8 or 9, and Jem is around 12 or 13 at the end of the novel. So they're pretty young, and the way they perceive things is very innocent, and I think that's one of the most important themes in this book is innocence. And I'll get into that a little bit more, but basically, in the town of Macomb at this point in time in the 1930s, there's a lot of prejudice and a lot of racism happening, and that's one of the biggest lessons that's taught in this book, how to deal with these things and basically how to stand up for what you know is right, even when all the odds are stacked against you or you know that the odds are not in your favor. So Atticus Finch is a lawyer while most of the neighbors are farmers. And life in Macomb carries on as normal until Atticus is assigned to a case to defend a black man, Tom Robinson, who was falsely accused of raping a white woman. And that is one of the biggest stories that this novel is based around. It's based around Atticus trying to teach his children that even though he knows up front that he may not win the case, or the chances are very low of him winning the case, it doesn't mean that you're not going to put your greatest effort forward. It doesn't mean that you're just going to give up or you're not going to try. And that's one of the lessons that he tries to teach his kids. It also, during the case, for the entire period of this case, the Finches are faced with a lot of hostility from their neighbors and even the kids from their friends in school. And, just a lot of harsh comments about their father and about where they come from and the life that they live, and defending a black man because it's looked down upon. Black people are looked down on in this time. It's almost like they look down on Atticus just for wanting to defend a black man, whether he's innocent or not. Personally, for me, one of the things that appealed most to me from this novel was the innocence of the children and them coming to understand what happens in the world, and like some of the sad realities that we have to face in this world. Please excuse my crying dogs in the background. They just want to be featured in all my videos apparently. um, so yes, as I was saying, the innocence of the kids of Scout and Jem Finch, some of the questions that they ask their father, it really shows their innocence. It really shows how they perceive the world differently from adults do. There's this amazing ability that kids have, and it's the ability to wonder, the ability to question things and to think open-mindedly, and shaping their beliefs and their thoughts at a young age is very important because it has such a strong effect on who they are when they grow up, on who they become as adults. And I think that is important. And I don't have kids. I hope to one day. But I think that's a very important lesson for parents or those who want to be parents. Because the way that Atticus answers the questions that his children has. He doesn't really um, ignore their questions or just make up something that would keep them from asking. He'd give a reasonable answer, and what he teaches them encourages these values and morals that they will develop in their life. Scout Finch, being such a young and curious girl, she's very interested in understanding things that's happening in Maycomb. And she's particularly interested in Boo Radley, or Mr. Arthur, who is one of the neighbors, and he's assumed by some of the kids in the neighborhood to be a deranged murderer because he never leaves his house, they've never seen him, and they only hear these scary stories about him. And the kids have this one friend, Dill, who visits every summer, and during summer, the three kids, Scout, Jem, and Dill, kind of get together and they have fun telling scary stories about the Radley house and trying all sorts of tricks to get him out of the house because they want to see him. They even dare Jem to run and touch the Radley house, which they're not allowed to go near because Atticus doesn't want them disturbing the Radleys or trying to get themselves in trouble. So, but at the end of the day, they're kind of unsuccessful with their tricks. And as I said before, the thing about Scout's questions is that it does more than just it does more than just show how much she wonders and how curious she is, but I think it also has an effect on us questioning our own values and reflecting on ourselves and wondering, well, why do we think this way and why do we have these values? Why do we make certain decisions that we make? Because when you look at things from a child's perspective, you realize that as adults we're not always as open-minded as we should be, and sometimes our values can be questionable. When we grow up, we lose some of the innocence and wonder that we once possessed as kids, and we also lose our ability to empathize with some of the other problems that people are faced with in life. We kind of take for granted some of those things and hardships that other people are faced with that we don't necessarily have to endure. This was quite evident, especially where Jem Finch actually cries when he realized that Atticus lost the case, and the injustice that was done to Tom Robinson when he was declared as guilty for a crime when his innocence was proven. And the response that Atticus had was pretty straightforward in that he said, "They've done it before, and they did it tonight, and they'll do it again. It seems that only children weep." I've seen that other reviewers describe this novel as a compassionate, dramatic, and deeply moving novel that takes the readers to the roots of human behavior. Things such as innocence and experience, kindness and cruelty, and love and hatred, and even humor, because there are some parts of the book that would really make you laugh a little bit at some of the situations that happen, the way that the kids ask questions, the way they interpret things. So, from that perspective, it's a really entertaining book. Personally, I couldn't put it down when I started, and at the end of it, I was just hoping that there was a part two, there was a follow-up. Now, a lot of you are probably saying, you're hearing a lot except the title. None of this really has to do with mockingbirds or killing a mockingbird. The title of the book, To Kill a Mockingbird, was a lesson in itself that Atticus meant to teach his kids. There was a present that he gave to Jem, a rifle, and he said, "I'd rather you shoot at tin cans in the backyard, but I know you'll go after birds. Shoot all the blue jays you want if you can hit them, but remember, it's a sin to kill a mockingbird." And that's something I'm quoting from the novel itself. Jem said it was the first time he ever heard his father say it was a sin to do anything. So when he asked one of his neighbors about it, she said that Atticus was right. Mockingbirds don't do one thing but make music for us to enjoy. All they do is sing their hearts out. They don't do anything to disturb us. And that is why it's a sin to kill a mockingbird. And the lesson behind this is, it's a sin to go after something or someone that's innocent, that hasn't done you any harm. It's a sin to kill a mockingbird. It's a sin to harm something innocent or to hurt someone innocent. And I think it was symbolic of the case with Tom Robinson where he was falsely accused of raping a white woman. And I also think that there was a point in the book where Scout Finch kind of witnessed the injustice that was done against a man just because of the color of his skin. And that shows the prejudice that's taking place in this novel. Another very important part of the novel that I forgot to mention earlier is empathy. And coming down to the end of the novel where Scout and Finch actually get the opportunity to meet Boo Radley, and they realize that he's not that scary and he's not a deranged murderer as they initially thought. And he's actually a kind and considerate young person. He's very childlike in his personality. And he asks Scout to walk him to his front door at night because he doesn't want to walk home alone. Um, and she stands at his front door. She realizes a lesson that Atticus taught her very early on in the book, and that is that you don't judge another person until you can stand in their shoes, because you don't know what someone else is going through until you're able to stand in their position and experience life from their perspective. They always wondered why he never left the house, and they thought that he had such a hard life, and it was such a bad thing that he never came outside. But it was until she stood there at his front step and observed the town from that perspective, she realized that he could have seen everything that was going on, and he could have still been a part of it in his own way. And I think at that point in time, she was able to empathize with Boo and see that things were different than she thought it was. And the lesson that we can take away from that is empathy. You can't judge someone else unless you're able to stand in their shoes, unless you can put yourself in their situation and see things from their perspective, from their point of view. There are so many lessons to be learned from this novel. Those are just some of them that stood out to me, and why I would recommend that you read it. Now, I wouldn't say that there is an exact target group that the book is directed to. I think it can appeal to anyone from young to old, from all different backgrounds, because there are various lessons to be learned from the book. And the book is structured in such a simple way that any reader can really relate to it in some way. You can find something that appeals to you. That's one of the reasons why I think this is definitely now one of my favorite novels, something I don't mind reading all over again. And I definitely recommend you read it. I believe there are free copies online. An app that I've heard of and tried using is AnyBooks. Personally, for me, I don't really like reading from my laptop or my phone. I prefer to have a hard copy in my hand, so I like to buy, rent, or borrow novels that I can actually hold in my hand and read the physical copy. But there are some people who, like my sister, can sit all day and just read on her phone. Personally, I can't do it. So for those of you who don't mind reading from your devices, you can check out AnyBooks. It's an app that you can download from the App Store. There's also Wattpad, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot more if you just look for them. And most of those books are free. But yeah, so let me know what you think about this first review, and I will be working on more for the upcoming videos. Let me know what you would have liked to know. If you have any questions about the novel, I'll try my best to answer them and get back to you as soon as possible. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my page, and remember, you can go the distance.